Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of our Dungeon Boss Hero Spotlight. Tonight we have a double feature with the two heroes that have just gotten recent updates. We're talking about the Emily update and the Malice update. I'm going to get into a little bit about the changes, what my personal opinions are on them, and we'll also do a little extra bonus and we'll throw some rune guides on there and see if you want to use these guys, what's going to be the best way to use them. So I'll be honest, when I was reading through the hero cards here and looking at the updates, I found that these two, the timing seems very, very, very peculiar. If you really just read about these updates and think about the mechanics that are happening with the boosts that they're getting, it seems to me that both of these teams are very highly anti-beast teams, or anti-beast heroes rather. Like, these two people were updated in the interest of trying to take on the beast teams. Now, I don't know if they didn't think that the barbarian team was going to be able to handle the beast team, or if the barbarian was sort of a premature release, or they just didn't really have it planned out in the long run, and they decided, well, let's do barbarians first and then come back around to these. I know there's obviously some issues with timelines here and there, but looking at the updates, it really did look like these guys were made for anti-beasts, and I'll get into that as I review them. But to be honest, beasts were almost made a laughingstock by the barbarians. So the next hero updates we got, if they haven't already been in the works and are pending right now, I would say to hold off on releasing them and just redo them again, and then come up with something that's gonna balance out those barbarians a little bit, because they are totally running amok. So we thought the beast meta was bad in PvP. Barbarians are pretty brutal. So I'm not gonna sugarcoat it there. But enough about that. This is not a barbarian video. This is a demon and an angel video. I'm going to start out with Malice because, to be honest, looking at Malice, she did not get nearly the overhaul that Emily got. So we're going to start with her and look at just the basics in terms of the changes. Now, they mentioned the changes on here. I'm just going to go straight to the hero card, to be honest, because that's the easiest place to navigate to. Malice, when she first came out, she was a very, very cool demon. Now, we're talking ages ago, though, so she hasn't been relevant pretty much since she came out, which is unfortunate, because she was one of the cooler looking ones to start with. These are basically back in the days when everybody wanted Igorok. She came out and people were like, oh my god, look at this girl, she is amazing, blah, 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 blah. So it's kind of... it'd be nice if she was relevant again, and they tried to reinvigorate the demons a while back, and that kind of fell flat on its face. And then we saw the Sume epic, that fell flat on its face. And so the demons themselves are not really in a position of power. I don't think Malice alone is going to revive the demons, but for lower levels, it might be a fun one to play just to try and help them get up in the PvP ranks a little bit. So looking at the stats, we're going to start here. Her overall traits have not really changed that much. If you look at all these things here, we have the gluttony, and we have the wrath, and we have, that one's new, and that one's new as well. Actually, no, this one was new with the last demon update. So she still has her two of her deadly sins, the gluttony and the wrath, and then basically her other ones, she had... her abilities were kind of named after the 7 deadly sins, which was kind of cool. Her name is Malice, that's one of them as well. But in terms of her traits, she's got two really good ones here. So this one here, gain energy on enemy death. To be honest, you have to have a demon team in order for this to even be functional, and there really just isn't a good demon team right now. So I pretty much write this one off as negligible, but if you do run demons in PvE, it can be really handy as a recharge tool. More importantly, though, and her update for this time around is going to be this demonic harbinger. And so this one is awesome because it's basically saying every non-demon is starting out with a huge debuff, and it can't be healed, and they're taking bonus damage from demons. That bonus damage, I believe, is going to be ×2 according to the event card. If we look at the event card, it should be a ×2. It's down at the bottom, ×2 damage from demons. So that's going to be helpful and all, but unless you're, like I said, unless you're running demons, I don't know how effective that's going to be. It's certainly, the barbarians are just going to, brush that off. That's nothing. ×2 damage, sure, it'll take barbarians from full health, even if it takes them down to nothing. Well, guess what? Drac has his stupid shield thing, and they're not going to die anyway, so no big deal. So having that around isn't going to be a huge advantage for high-end players. It would be better for PvE as well as for lower to mid players. So this is a really cool trait, but I don't know that ×2 damage is really going to be enough. And I know they're going to be a little bit on the fence of allowing greater multipliers than ×2. ×2 is always in kind of the standard all the way around. That being said, we do have another tiered modifier out there. Keep in mind, Theft of Grace has not changed. This is basically the same thing. It's going to purge buffs and adds it purges enemy buffs and adds elemental buffs to allies. So nothing great about it. It would be good to debuff. That's her main purpose here, is to debuff somebody in question here. But probably her biggest change here is going to be the Malevolent Strike. So this one here deals bonus damage to targets with high max health. We've seen it with the ones that have high dodge, and we've seen the ones that have high defense. So this one is likely going to be tiered, and so it's going to just go up ×2, ×3, ×4, ×5, and you're probably going to start seeing some ×10, ×15 multipliers against certain heroes. Notably, what comes to mind is Grognog, and Grognog is a beast, like I said, and stealing buffs, that seems like a beast thing as well. So we steal those buffs, notably that feather, so that we can deal with their corpses with someone like Hopper, for example, who also happens to be dark and would pair well with Malice and Shade, for example. So this idea of purging buffs, this Malevolent Strike does deal splash damage. I don't think it's going to deal a ton of extra damage to the surrounding targets, but the dealing bonus damage to max health is going to be the big one. Now, my issue with this one here in terms of PvP attacks is you're going to need to do something to get this energy cost down to available on the first turn, I think, or it's possible you might not even get it off. PvP defense, for example, though, this is obviously going to go up in the second turn if you have her around. To be honest, I don't think anyone's going to put Malice on PvP defense unless you're a low-end player, to be honest. The barbarians are just way too tough. It's just not going to happen. And then lastly, with her Envious Rampage, nothing special here. It's just a lifesteal attack on a couple of hits. So Malevolent Strike is the big change here, along with that starting debuff. And I don't put a lot of stock into either one of those, so we're not even going to actually run through any dungeons or PvP with her, because I think while the gesture is nice to try and reinvigorate the demons, I don't think this is going to do it. So without some other demon changes and some major updates, keep in mind she does have decent stats too. She has a pretty reasonable base attack with 1300, which is better than a lot of people. And she's got a pretty good defense to start with too, so you can use her in a couple of different ways if you want, and she's also armored, so I mean she's going to be a good tanky type of a hero to try and use those extra traits that she's got and try to use that ability to purge buffs and such like that. If you can keep her around long enough, sure, this gluttony buff might be, pretty awesome, but I just don't see her hanging around long enough to be relevant in PvP at the high end levels. And then I thought they would have maybe dumped an epic on her. Maybe that's going to come out in the next couple of days or something. But we don't need another dark epic, and in this case here, it's not going to matter on her anyways, unless it has an incredibly powerful proc to it. But if it's just a couple of stat boosts and then here's 3 times damage, junk, and I won't even bother upgrading it. So that's my take on Malice. If you want to rune her, my guess is the best way to rune her is not to go with attack like a lot of dark heroes are. Because she is armored, I would shoot for defense and high health just to try and keep her alive to steal buffs. Most likely you're going to want to steal buffs to use with Hopper, for example. That's going to be the best possible use for her, in my opinion. You're going to need to have basically one superpower, probably Hopper on your team, and then probably somebody like another demon. My only other demon recommendation is likely going to be probably Sume, because he has an epic. You could probably try to use Nitpick or Ice Pick, but those guys are so squishy. I don't even know if I would bother with demons at all. So take that with a grain of salt. Now, the main hero of the hour, Emily, is a far better enhancement than Malice. So first and foremost, let's go into her epic. Epic, it said right on that event card that, oh, upgrades to the Epic. Don't worry about that. There's really no update to the Epic. It's just a little extra damage. So yeah, heal yourself and gain some energy. It's probably not going to be much of a difference. So sure, in long PvE dungeons, that might be helpful to heal yourself, but PvE dungeons have been a joke for quite a while now. Until we get that level 80 content where it's nearly impossible to beat and we need those heals, this is really nothing. Her epic is attack, defense, and skill. That's her epic. The 30% chance is negligible for the other stuff. Her stats, we have one really, really amazing new stat for her as far as her traits go, and that is this angelic. So immune to debuffs, really awesome. Light immune, yes, that's good, even though there aren't that many light heroes that we're fighting, and starts dungeons with an Aegis shield. So she's getting a free pass from an instant gank from someone like Shade, that's good, but most specifically the immune to debuffs, which she was immune to most of them to start with, if we're being honest here. That's a super nice feature, because we're not talking about just not being able to be frozen or shocked like old Emily, but any of these debuffs that somebody's going to throw on her, it's going to be nice to keep her away from those things. So that's going to be nice. Starting with the Aegis shield, obviously it's going to go off after one hit, but like I said, if you're going against a Shade team and he's going to throw a gank shot on her, that's usually a death sentence, at least in the newer PvP. Don't care about magical, but that is a thing. Really, the only person or anything that cares about magical is really Koros for the most part, but she does take less damage from non-physical, and she is armored, so she takes less damage from physical. These two things paired together have always made her one of the toughest defensive heroes out there. And if we skip forward to the rune guide for a second, there's no change in Emily's rune guide. Go as much defensive as you can. Damage reduction and defense across the board. So any way that you can mitigate damage with her, that's her only purpose, is to stay alive. The reason that she's staying alive is you want to have her using her heals and her cleanses to basically help the team out. New, I don't think this is new. If it is, it's got a new graphic, because I don't remember seeing it like this, but Demon's Bane. I thought she always had Demon Hunter, which dealt 2 times damage to demons, but this one here also takes less damage from demons. This basically just pairs with the light versus dark event. I don't think we're ever going to run into any demons, to be honest. Maybe once or twice here or there. For the most part, I'm not even sure we're going to run into Emily's out there, so... but she will do double damage to demons, which if you find one out there, you can smite them with the power of the heavens if you want. And then we have Divine Presence. This here may possibly be even better than the Angelic. This here is, and this one here has me so intrigued that I'm actually going to do a PvP raid, because I want to see this and verify that it actually does what I hope it does. And that's, and again, this is totally anti-beast, because I see this and I think, the whole purpose they created this was to purge that feather off of the beast teams so that somebody like Hopper could stomp the corpses. Now, obviously, Solaris brings that feather back on the second turn, but if you're able to put one of them down in the first turn, you kind of mitigate that. You don't have to worry about the team having like a non-beast on there, because usually that's who I would go for first. Is if I have a Hopper team, go for the non-beast, and then we'll wait a couple turns for the beast to get rid of their feathers. But I think this is going to be a huge one. And notice, this is purge 1 buff on all enemies at the start of this hero's turn. It's a little bit ambiguous in the wording, and it did not say in the hero card or the event card explicitly. So let's see, yeah, I don't even think it even says it in here. It doesn't. So what I want to know is if that's a one-time thing. I feel like it's a one-time thing. If this was a turn-based thing, sort of how Crux purges a debuff from himself every single turn, that would be amazing. And I think we're at a point where there's so much power to be going up against that purging an enemy buff every single turn seems fair to me. Emily hasn't been relevant for a long time. I think throwing her in there to get rid of some of these awful buffs, again, mostly on beast teams, for example, I think that's perfectly fair, but the fact that it says this hero's turn and not purge 1 buff at the start of every turn or something like that. But we're going to actually test this out and verify. Her actual stats themselves, oops, we don't care too much about the actual stats. Sorry about the orientation issue there. Dropped my tablet for the most part. She has weak attack, and she has weak defense. So, but we're not in it for the base stats. We're in it just for the runes for her. Abilities. Now, I don't know if I'm the only one that ever thought this, but I wondered basically for years. I'm like, why in the hell is her first ability a train? It looks like a train. The icon always looks like a train. And I'm like, this is just the dumbest thing. And finally, I just really started staring at it, and I was just looking at it tonight because I'm like, maybe they updated this too. And I look at it, and I actually see it's a little dude who's like basically sitting next to a gravestone, and he just like is sitting up like Kane and the Undertaker do in the WWE. He's just like, oh, he's laying down and then he's up. So I don't know why or how I ever got it in my head that this was a train, but I looked at it and it's like, oh, her first ability is a train and blah blah blah. I don't know. I guess I'm just weird like that. But anyways, Angelic Resurrection is her resurrection skill, or her resurrection ability. The best part about this is not what it actually does, but they finally came to grips with reality and dumped this thing down from like 20 some odd turns. Let me look at my cheat sheet here once. And light. We have Emily. Her total energy cost was 33, so I think it was somewhere around like 21 or 22 or something energy, or 25. It was just insane. It was ridiculous. And then Solaris comes around and says, hey, I'll just revive everybody every single turn, don't mind me. And they still never got around to changing it until now. So this 5 is a lot more manageable. I feel like in this case here, if you're able to keep Emily alive with some serious damage reduction, even after the combat revamp, it's possible that this might be helpful. In addition to that, we're going to get a little bit of haste and a little bit of energy out of this resurrection. That's what makes it better than just regular resurrection, is to get that haste on there. And the 3 energy basically means for almost anybody, you'll be able to get to their next tier of abilities. So depending on who goes down and for what reason, this might be a lifesaver for you. So someone like Koros, if Koros goes down in the first turn, bring him back, and then he gets his siphoning rampage, that could be a deal breaker there for the defense. You might just turn the tides. So I think this is a huge improvement to her. We'll see if it's relevant for her, because like I said, it's going to come down to keeping her alive in battle. Solaris stays around for several turns, but she also has a passive to bring herself back. Once Emily's down, that's it. Now, are we going to be seeing Emily and Solaris teams? I think I myself might test it out, but we're going to be suffering some serious lack of damage there. The first thing that originally came to mind was a perma-res team, where we basically have Solaris, Leo, and Emily, but then who's going to be the 4th? That's the tricky one. Because we want to have somebody that's going to, keep them alive, but we also need someone that can do some damage. So it's anybody's guess what the 4th would be for that one, if it could even survive for the most part. Seems to me it would almost have to be another beast like Grognog or someone like that. Cleansing Wave is a better version of her previous cleanse because it cleanses all allies, and it also has a really great cooldown, so you'll be able to use this over and over, provided that you're able to keep her alive in battle. So 3 turns, that's actually great. You'll be able to use this one on turn 3, basically, once it comes up, unless you're using some festive runes or other plus energy runes. This is going to be nice because it'll be come into play right when you start getting massive debuffs starting to stack, your burns and your poisons and stuff like that, and getting those things out there. Most of that stuff isn't usually critical in the first turn, especially if you have Solaris on your team, because most people are just thinking about reviving at that point. Lastly, Divine Justice. Not much of a difference from the, I can't remember what her last ability was called, some sort of a smiting type of a strike, but the only benefit to this one here is it marks the enemies with a magnified light. Currently, that was something that only Leo possessed. I don't think this is a deal breaker in any, or I don't know why I'm saying deal breaker. It's not a game changer in any stretch of the word here, because there's not enough light heroes that anybody really even cares about. So my thought was that maybe, just maybe, they were going to bring Kira back to his glory. I'll be honest, the Emily and Malice updates were 2 very shocking ones to me. I never would have guessed that those 2, because Malice had an update already. She had her shot, and Emily was basically just kind of there. I mean, she obviously needed it, but I never even expected it. I was expecting Kier to come back from his glory days, or possibly Black Diamond, and then on the dark side, I almost had it guaranteed it had to have been Ponti as an update, because that's probably the one dark hero that's not used that everybody would just love to use in PvP. But again, here we are with that, and that's where we're at. So, and then we already touched on the epic. The epic doesn't mean anything. So I don't have the best runes on her right now. They're basically just graders, and even look at those other ones, they're not even superiors. So if she can survive with these runes, with the damage reduction, we'll know that she's got something in store for her. But again, it's going to be a matter of what's going to be the team. And to be honest, I have to find a non-barbarian team, because the barbarians are going to light her up big time. But remember, we're doing this for two things. We want to see that purging of buffs on every single turn, if that is indeed the case. I don't know that it will be, but we're at least going to get one out of it. But barbarians galore, that's about what I expected. Half beast team, I don't like that. It's funny because we'll never find any just basic beast teams anymore. Everybody's got barbarians, and rightfully so. We saw a Malice one out there. This person, Chooch, is getting a little bit brave with Malice. That's just because it's a dark team, but and honestly, it doesn't matter Zom or Malice on that one. The Shade Balog is the current defensive thing. All right, here we go. This is as good of a beast team as we're going to get. Bossman 87, 5200 rune power. Let's see what we can do here. I obviously want to keep my people alive. Don't mind this team that I just deleted. It sucked and did not do what I wanted. I had higher hopes for Zen, but he doesn't prevent debuffs, so it was a huge embarrassing failure. Alright, so the team. I can't justify doing many PvP attacks these days without Solaris, so Solaris is going to be on there. I am going to go the route of Permarez for the most part. We're going to go Solaris, Leo, and Emily, and then we are going to pick a fourth. The fourth in this case here, I think Hopper's a good one, because we're going to be purging buffs, and I love Hopper, so that's what we're going with. Permarez plus Hopper is what I'm going to call this one for now, but I'm sure there's going to be a better name for it. We're going to use Leo there. Doesn't matter where he's at. Honestly, it doesn't matter where any of these other guys are, because they're really only there to revive. And again, this is mostly going to be anti-beast team. Remember, I think Emily's buff was for anti-beasts. That's basically what it is. So do not try to use this against barbarians. It is not going to work, I guaranteed. I tried a number of different Permarez teams against barbarians, and they simply do too many attacks. When Drac hits you for 6 times and then someone else hits you for another 5 times, it's just impossible to keep up no matter what you got. So we're just going to try and win a war of attrition by keep on bringing people back to life. The key to winning this, honestly, is usually how and when Leo dies. If you've ever used Permarez teams, it's a matter of how and when Leo dies, because Leo dying at the worst time, he can't bring anybody back. But really, somebody just has to always be dead before Leo, and you're always going to have a shot. So Hopper going down early. I didn't expect that, but we'll throw some magnified light on these guys, but Solaris is going to cleanse it anyways, no big deal. I should point out, though, I wasn't looking closely, but Grognog and Solaris both were missing their feathers, which is exactly what I wanted. Alright, so here's the first aspect of Permarez, and then basically what happens is we get some turns in here, as long as they don't retaliate and bring everyone back, or retaliate and kill me, it's not a big deal. And so then Solaris should go, and then here's the Permarez aspect. We'll start going back like that. Alright, so we don't need to taunt yet, because we don't want Leo to die. That's a big thing. Don't ever taunt with Leo. So in this case here, all the feathers are back. I don't know where the turn is, so let's just see where this takes us. That seemed like Gortusk would have been the start of the turn, so this is telling me that we get a one-time deal for the purging of buffs, which is kind of a bummer, and it may just negate my hopes that I had for Emily. Kind of a bummer, but it is what it is, I guess. Nope, there it is. She did do it. She did do something there. Purge 1 buff. So, okay. she's restored my faith now. Here's where we go now with our resurrection. Let's bring Solaris back, and we're just going to perma-res this thing up. And at this point here, they're burning through their abilities, and it's just a matter of us trying to win this one. I'm confident at this point that I will be able to win, because I know that Emily's going to purge buffs, which is what I was hoping for. Because now all we got to do is just start getting some people, and then with Leo out there, you know, he's just going to keep on bringing them back. Probably didn't need to do some cleansing here, but, you know, never mind. It is what it is. There goes Solaris. Once Solaris is done, beast teams are toast. That is just how it is. So again, using Emily is an anti-beast tactic, but we saw I had to refresh like 5 times to even find a beast team. So, you know, it is what it is. Alright, so obviously this is not going to be the fastest. It's a little bit slow of a fight, but if you're looking to really grind one out and just secure a victory, I think it's certainly, you know, plausible. These guys just have such high health and defense as it is. It's going to be a pain. I wish I will throw a mark on one of these. At least I can bite him the next turn. We'll get the double or not, because Hopper's dead. But my revive should be back up. Should be. Not quite. Damn. Alright, well. Sorry, this is kind of boring at this point here. I was not expecting this to go this long. I was expecting to either die early or at least be able to go a little bit quicker. Hopper's obviously the most powerful person on this team here, so I need to get her so she can actually do some attacks, just like that. That was the haste aspect. Love that double attack with haste, especially if you have the abilities up. This is where I would love to have the auto button. Getting the auto button in PvP has been a request for quite some time, but... Alright, so we proved a couple things. Emily can be viable. I don't know how she's going to do without Solaris, for example. You obviously don't need Leo. Leo is kind of there as a fluff hero, but I think Solaris plus Emily is almost a given, because you have to have that insurance policy. You just have to. Hopefully, just looking over the new updates, I'm optimistic that Emily's going to find her way in there sooner or later, but I don't know that either of these... I know for a fact that Malice is not the answer to Barbarians. Not going to happen. Emily, I don't think she's the answer to Barbarians. She's obviously, anti-beast, and she's the answer to that, but they are not the problem anymore. So if you have any other uses for either of these two, feel free to leave them in the comments. I would love to know some other opinions. Obviously, I can be a little bit biased at times, and if I don't want you to think because I don't think they're useful that they're obviously not useful, because you can use these guys at lower levels and possibly to extreme efficiency. I'm just saying that when you get to Legend 1 and level 70 and you're fighting against all superior elite runes and those hardcore PvP runes, I don't think either of these two are much of an enhancement, and probably not gonna do too much in the way of the PvP disruption. Anyways, as always, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave those below, and we will see you again next time for some more rune guides. Thanks. Thank you so much for watching this video and supporting my channel. If you like this video, please show your continued support by hitting that like button, and be sure to check out both my YouTube channels for new content all the time. And always remember, peace is a lie, there's only passion. We'll see you next time.